Okay, so we were talking about trying to keep stage levels down, because if we can do that, it really does improve the quality of the kind of front of house situation, especially in a scenario where you're having to mix to like discipline volume levels. It's very easy to beat stage sound if you're allowed to mix front of house at 103 dB, which is all very well and good in rock and roll. But when you're having to mix maybe a little bit more conservatively at 94, 95 dB, then keeping stage noise down is really important. One of the keys to this for us here is using something like the Roland M48. Now, the M48 is probably, in my opinion, the best personal monitor mixer on the market. 40 channels can come here, and we can arrange those 40 channels and gang them up in any way we like. So, for example, here, this is all of the drums in stereo, kick, snare, hats, and the toms. The reason why we've done it this way for the vocalist is this backing vocalist hasn't got maybe the knowledge or the time or the patience to individually adjust kick to snare to hats to toms, but just wants it very simply to be able to turn up one knob, which gives them a feeling of what's going on with the drum kit. You'll notice that each vocalist is individually presented on this mixer, so I only have to go to the top row and I can adjust the level of each vocal individually. So that's all happening, and then each musician can mix their own foldback effectively to their own in-ears. So this gives individuality to each musician. I also, Dave and I have made sure that we've configured these things to be different for different groups. So for the vocalists are generally using the same setup, but the band are a little bit more picky about exactly how they want the drums mixed, so that we'll present to them kick, snare, hat separately, but then they'll just have the backing vocals as one group and the lead vocal on a different one. So it's horses for courses, and we can configure these things in any way we like. It's incorrect to think that we need to use a Roland console to achieve this. In fact, there is no, other than the M48s, and a clever splitter bridge that I'll show you later. There's no Roland technology on this stage. The board is a Midas board. We're using the Midas mic pre's to drive these, and we do that by converting first to MADI, and then we convert the MADI into Roland's React protocol, which drives the M48. So you don't have to be using Roland desks to give yourself the ability to use these fantastic in-ear monitoring systems. Let's go and have a look at maybe how the drummer's got his setup. Okay, so this is the drummers. Well, there are two drummers actually. In one band it's Graham, and the other band it's Luke. And but their setup is pretty much the same. You can see here that they've got kick, snare, hats, the toms in stereo mixed with the overheads in stereo, and then they've got bass and then the individual instruments. And then they do have the backing vocals as one single group, and then they've got the lead vocals as another group as well. So they can pretty much dial in exactly what they need to do. Now, there is also EQ. On every channel there is separate 3-band EQ per channel, if you like, or I should say per subgroup. There's also a reverb. You can, if you want to, add reverb to these things. One of the things that makes the Roland M48 so great to work with is there's just so much headroom in the actual headphone drive circuitry, so it just sounds fantastic. You can see here that the drummer is using the EQ pretty much exactly flat. The overall EQ he's not touched. He's not having to overdrive the volume to get what he needs. The Roland M48 system just sounds fantastic. So I find that without EQ, I don't EQ any of the splits that come to this. It just comes to the M48s directly off the back of the mic pre's. They just turn up and it just sounds great out of the box, and that's generally how it goes every time. So I highly recommend these things. Another thing that the drummer finds really helpful is it's not in at the moment because he's taking it away with him, but he uses a metronome just to give him counting. And the M48 has an auxiliary in which has got a separate volume control. If you look onto the top of the board here, there's an auxiliary in control which just gives a volume of whatever you input in here. So that could be an iPod, or it could be your metronome, or your click track, or whatever else that you need to input. And I know this drummer finds that really helpful. One thing I will say, that when I show you that, you know, we've got numbers of band changeovers that we have to do, and we from a computer down at side of stage, we're able to globally save every M48 that's on stage. So at the end of a band set, Dave stores away the settings for all the M48s in one simple hit of a button, and then he can recall the settings for the next band. So as he's changing over the in-ear buds, you know, because we believe, you know, cleanliness is next to godliness. As we're changing over the in-ear buds, we're also restoring the settings for the next band. We find it's easier if we do that rather than let the band do it. Then we don't get any confusions where, you know, they've forgotten to restore or they've restored the wrong setting. So we've locked that all out and we do it ourselves. The other thing that there is on the back of these is an ambient mic. So generally, I don't really recommend the use of these kind of ambient mics because I think they can cause more trouble than they're worth. But if you're feeling, as you can see here, it's metering now off of this microphone. You can see me speaking and metering, and that's going to the headphones as well. So if you feel that if your in-ears are very tight on you and they're the kind that really isolate you from the acoustic environment, you might find it a little bit too isolated, in which case you can spin in a little bit of ambience, which is just picking up the general sound, obviously in the area of the M48, and feeding that into your ears. This is the Roland distributor. So this is a Roland S4000D, which is responsible for driving those M48 monitors. It's an Ethernet switch, but it also carries power over Ethernet. And you can see we've got all 8 of them on here, which tells us that the units are connected and they're correctly working on stage. So we take the outputs of this and we take these Cat5 outputs, which are carrying the React protocol to the M48s, and we patch them into our hybrid stage distribution system. Over here, in Dave's rack, we've got the radio mics that we're using on this job. And then we've got the device, which is really the heart of the Roland system, if you like. It's generating for us the React protocol that we need for the M48 personal monitors to work. And the way we do that is, the first thing that happens is we take 2 lines of AES50 out of the Midas processor, and this is basically our microphone splitter. We've taken a microphone split at the level of the Midas network, so these guys are getting their feeds absolutely everything I do on the desk. They're just getting the raw digital split of the Midas console, and we convert from AES50 into Madi, and then the Madi feed out of this AES50 bridge hits a network bridge from Roland, the S-Madi device, and that converts it to the React protocol, and we need the React protocol for the M48s. So that's how we're actually managing to drive the Roland system directly from the Midas world. We do have a remote control connector here, which is a serial connector, which is just connected up to a very small, simple laptop, which we use for configuring each of the M48s and making sure that they've got in them what we need. You'll see this reads what's on stage, presents them all to me. And then I could go in as the engineer and I could tweak each one if I wanted to. I could make adjustments from here. I don't need to do that. The musicians have got very used to using this system themselves. But this is the position that Dave would store off each of the musicians' setting just by doing a global save, and then the job's done. So that's the kind of equipment that you need to be able to drive this personal monitor system. Dave has this really nice thing he does, which I think is kind of cool. He's got 2 bands and he's just making sure that he's not messing different people's earbuds. We're not using expensive in-ear drivers here. The guys don't have their own in-ear drivers, but we are using reasonable quality, musician-orientated Shure in-ear drivers or Sennheiser in-ear drivers with the correct earbuds, which are sized to the musicians. So we swap over every time we have a band change. So my name is Mark Payne. I've been here with David Heath. Together we're producing sound, lighting and video and environment and draping and staging for the Together at West Point event. and it's been my pleasure to take you through some of the audio solutions in particular that we've used here. You can contact me, mark@sflgroup.co.uk, and why not visit our website at www.sflgroup.co.uk.